that challenge in the moment, like I thought everything was over. Like I really didn't know what I was going to do. But now looking back, like it was exactly what I needed to do, should have done, needed the push to do, would never have done it on my own. I had to be forced into it. But it turns out I'm an entrepreneur.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be an awesome one. Our guest is the owner of Bonfire Bookkeeping and has been a longtime member of the Successful Bookkeeper community. Lisa Channell, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
It's great to have you here. We've been connecting for a very long time and actually had a great time at QuickBooks Connect Toronto, where you hosted a podcast meetup and brought together podcast listeners to what's happening in the industry around podcasts. And that was a ton of fun. And so before we get too far down that track, I'd love for you to share a little bit of your career journey leading up to this point for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a bit of a strange journey to kick off the show.
We love strange journeys.
Good, because this is a little strange. So I was hired locally when I moved back to my small town, and I was searching for a job. So I kind of put out my resume everywhere and got hired by an aggregates company as their receptionist. And I worked there for about 6 months before I found out at the Christmas party that I had shown up for that job and was not supposed to be hired for that job.
No way.
So, yeah. And of course, at the Christmas party, everyone's having fun. The owners let it slip that the person organizing the interviews had called me instead of the real candidate. So my entire journey is like hinged on a mistake, which turned into like the most beautiful mistake ever. But it was an interesting beginning. So I was hired as a receptionist, and the lady or the woman who had hired me was the most exceptional bookkeeper I to date have ever met. And I was very, very lucky to work under her for, I think, about 4 years. And I moved from the receptionist role into the bookkeeping role as she was kind of moving on to a different one. And I was watching what she was doing, and reception and customer service have never actually really been my forte. I've been in customer service for a really long time, but I absolutely got obsessed with what she was doing and asked if I could help. And she would give me little tasks. And as I gained confidence, she would give me more. And eventually I just started kind of doing her role, and she didn't have to be there as much. And I would just phone if I had questions. I can't even drive the point home. Having a mentor was probably the biggest thing throughout my career that has been the stable driving force. So if you can find one, please do that. And then after she had moved on, we were really lucky in that company to be able to hire a controller who was a CGA as well. So brought a completely different level of experience to that job. The aggregates company was just one company of 9 companies based out of that office. So serial entrepreneurs. I got to taste 9 different companies while I was still in training. So it was a pretty incredible experience. And then the combination of working under a great bookkeeper and also a great controller as well was awesome.
Wow.
So it sounds perfect, right?
Yeah,
this
what a training
whole journey
ground.
up to this point is just perfect. And then I had a baby.
The best
and
part of all.
yes, absolutely. Not so much for the career though. Like it was so exciting. But when I was coming back from maternity leave, they laid me off and I had to act fast. So that kind of exciting job that I really did love, it was no longer available. So I ended up having to, or I decided, I shouldn't say have to, but I had to act fast. And I decided to open my business at that point. That was 5 years ago. And that's it. Now, 5 years later, I just celebrated our 5-year anniversary in January.
Wow. So the baby came,
Mm-hmm.
you went on maternity leave, came back, and you were laid off.
Yes.
And then started your business, and it's been 5 years now in your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So it's there's this concept that I've often thought about and talked about, which is life interrupted. And often interruptions in life can be, when you're going through the interruption, it's unpleasant, coming back and not having a job, unpleasant. Looking back now, that interruption, how has that interruption been for you in your life?
Oh my goodness. It gives me goosebumps hearing you say it that way, actually. I definitely didn't mean to downplay. I have 2 beautiful kids and I'm so thrilled to have them. It was the ultimate blessing. And that challenge in the moment, like I thought everything was over. Like I really didn't know what I was going to do. But now looking back, like it was exactly what I needed to do, should have done, needed the push to do, would never have done it on my own. I had to be forced into it. But it turns out I'm an entrepreneur. And I think at the beginning, as many people do, we start with a job for ourselves. And as we gain confidence and things change, then you start to realize that it can be something more than just a job. And like it really started, even when I started the business, I was like, I'll just work while the kids are in school. It'll be like a side hustle. I'll just make enough money to make ends meet. Like my husband will still be the primary breadwinner and I'll just work while the kids are in school. Admittedly, that was like fast forwarding into the future because I had a baby at like 2 babies at the time. But that idea of just doing kind of only what I needed to be able to survive turned into this like humongous opportunity. Like I live and breathe it now. I'm so lucky and grateful to be in this community. And I know that sounds trite, but I fell into it accidentally. And I honestly, every time I think about it, I just feel so lucky to have landed where I did. And I definitely work more than I intended to when I opened the business. Like I was thinking like 5 hours a day and while the kids were in school, I definitely work more than that. But what this decision or journey has brought to me is that I can work wherever, whenever I need to. And I can drop off my kids at school every day. I can pick them up every day. I have a wonderful husband who helps me immensely with a lot of that. But because of my flexible schedule, I can be really involved in my kids' life in a deeper, more meaningful way than I really ever thought possible because of the flexibility. So looking back, that crazy accident that felt like the world was crashing down on me turned out to be the best thing ever.
It's remarkable. Love hearing stories like that. And often the challenges, things we're going through, they don't seem that way at the time, but they are interruptions, and interruptions lead to new things, new beginnings. And that you're a clear example. Your story is a clear example of how it pushed you exactly where you wanted to go. It was simply likely your own vision and desire saying, enough is enough. It's time to go forth and do the things you need to do to have the life that you truly want with your business. And you went there and did that, took the risks and made the most of it. You also mentioned mentorship, and the person that mentored you, she was the very best bookkeeper you ever met. Is she still working? What's her story now? Are you still in contact with her?
Yeah, I wish that we talked more, because she's just an incredible person and friend at the same time as being an incredible bookkeeper. She is still working. I think she's probably thinking or hoping to retire soon. We have gone back and forth over the years about like going into business together. She is close enough to retirement, though, that she kind of wants to stick to some of the desktop software. And my journey has taken me far, far, far away from the desktop software. I'm exclusively cloud-based now. And we have done some training together. The mentor became the mentee in some ways, which is a lovely full circle. But I don't think she's quite ready to make the leap completely. So she's still working away, toiling away, but I would love to see her be able to have like the flexibility that I have. So I probably just need to reach out more.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I encourage you to do that. It's a wonderful story. It's, certainly an acknowledgement of her and her contribution and the legacy she's left with you. That legacy not only impacts you, your life, your family, but also all the businesses that you work with, right?
Yeah.
Which is, it's remarkable, right, that this happens. I think it's interesting as well because it makes us think about, look, there's listeners right now, you're listening, you're a startup, you are where Lisa was when you were just getting started, right, showing up at the Christmas party. The best thing that happened to you was having the mentorship, the education, the experiences that you would have taken you a lifetime to collect. So finding a good mentor, finding good environments to learn and get that knowledge that you can't learn in school downloaded from mentors like the one that you've mentioned is one perspective. But the other now is of you, where you are now, is giving that back, looking for eager people in the industry and even people that want to learn, is mentoring them and giving it back because it's needed in the marketplace for the whole ecosystem and the industry to work. So you've told, from start to now this stage of your life where you're able to give it back. Yeah,
it's really incredible. It makes me feel really honored to, I'm a lifelong learner. I think that could be like the key to, I want to say quote unquote, my success, really acknowledging that there's no end to this journey for me and soaking up as much information as there is out there has really been an integral part of what my experience has been. So I love that there are Facebook groups now and communities that are sharing information in a way that we've never been able to do before. When I was hired, and for those I ended up working for that company for about 6 years, all said and done. And I knew one bookkeeper the whole time. I literally only knew one bookkeeper. And I went to my very first conference, which was life-changing, and met all of these people who were having the identical experience I was. Same client problems, same work problems, same questions. And now we have these Facebook groups and online communities that are sharing information that if you don't have a mentor available, then being in these communities and groups are just a whole nother way of sharing information. And you can actually connect with a mentor by just being in the groups. I've definitely reached out to different people in those groups, and we've shared ideas and in some cases ongoing, I don't know if I would call it mentorship, but sharing of ideas, sharing of experiences, and all of those things. And it can be really difficult and scary to ask a question in those groups. So having a one-to-one relationship with the mentee-mentor style can be really powerful. So I'm just really grateful for those groups.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's events like QuickBooks Connect Toronto and the other industries in Canada. The Institute of Professional Bookkeepers of Canada holds a national event. There's Scaling New Heights. There's a bunch of them that you get to connect face to face, whereas before you spent 6 years, you knew one other bookkeeper. Now you've got a family of bookkeepers and not only in Canada but also anywhere in the world, really, where you can get a perspective, get information, knowledges, experiences, and build long-lasting relationships with people that makes life more fulfilling.
Yes, absolutely. We often joke, I live for conferences, and it always feels like summer camp to me, like summer camp for pro advisors. And when you don't see what feels like lifelong friends for a year, and then you meet up once a year at a conference, and there's this incredibly special feeling about even when you walk into the lobby of the hotel where everyone's staying, and people start to recognize you, and you're just part of something way bigger than yourself, which is just so incredible. So
it is a lot like summer camp, and blessed are those that find adult summer camps early in life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's true.
Because
it's
summer
so true.
camp is amazing.
Yes, that is absolutely right.
So good for you, and I also feel that way, and it's fantastic. So hat off to both mentors, hat off to the industry that's providing the facilitation of connecting the two together in a meaningful way. Now, your business, one of the things that you've focused on is cash flow.
Recently.
And how? Tell us a little bit about that and how you came to get involved in that recently.
Yes. This actually feels like another one of those full circle journeys as well. Opening my business, that felt like it was going to be the hardest thing, was opening the business, but it's been a exciting and crazy struggle too. Things have definitely evened out over the last couple of years, but there have been some pretty significant obstacles for me. When I first started, I didn't realize how much of me as a person would flow forward into me as a business or my business. And one of the areas that I really struggled with was pricing and cash flow and confidence. And so cash flow for me is a really personal experience. I always did think that business decision-making, pricing was very black and white, and you didn't bring your personal kind of baggage into those experiences. Turns out there's a lot of personal baggage that comes into all of those things that we're required to do as business owners. So cash flow, I'm newly delivering cash flow as a service. In fact, I'm not actually charging for it yet because it's still a fledgling project for me, but I've been learning about it a lot been a focus of probably the last year or so. And so I know how personal cash flow problems can be, and I am becoming really passionate about delivering or helping my clients, other bookkeepers, with cash flow. So I don't know if you know this or not yet, but about 2 years into having my business, I got the extraordinary chance to work with Ron Baker. And what a guy. My cash flow journey or pricing journey all ties into Ron Baker, essentially. And when we were at the IPPC conference. That's where the Black Swans get to spend some really quality time with Ron Baker directly. And we spent a full day like downloading information from his brain into ours. And it was so powerful and so much information. I almost couldn't take it all in, but I distinctly remember sitting down with him and the other, I think it was 4 or 5 ladies who were in the Black Swan program with me. And Ron had asked us to go around the table and kind of explain our journey up to that point. Like, why were we interested in changing our pricing and kind of what had happened to that point? And I let everyone else go first because I was really nervous. And by the time it got to me, my like emotions were absolutely just running wild. And at that point in my journey, I had opened this business. I was so passionate about it. I was busy all of the time, but I wasn't getting paid. And my husband at that point kind of was like, you keep choosing your clients over your family and they're not paying you. So you don't even have a business. You have a hobby. And oh my goodness, my heart was just shattered. I had a hobby. And although I was working the hardest I'd ever worked, I wasn't getting paid when I should be getting paid. So I had a hobby, and that was really tough. But I sat right across from Ron Baker and kind of looked him in the eye and said, like, I'm here because something needs to change. And I know that you're the person who's going to help me do it. And I'm really scared that I'm like on the brink of some really dramatic, like, I really honestly thought, I didn't know if my husband and I were going to make it through that particular phase. It was really tough. Like, I knew we loved each other and all of that. But when you think that your partner is choosing other people over you all of the time, it can be really unsettling and foundation shaking. So Ron Baker just like put his hand on top of my hand and was like, don't worry, we got this. And I mean, you know him, right? Like he's just so incredibly smart but humble and kind at the same time. And so everything changed that day. Like, I actually refer to it as like before Ron Baker and after Ron Baker. And we spent about 9 months working on cash flow, working on pricing. They're intertwined more than I even acknowledged at the time. And now I'm very proud to say that I have pre-authorized debits in place for all of my clients. I am not scared to send invoices anymore because I don't even have to send them. And everything is changed now. He was right. He had me, and now everything is different. So that was my very long story about how cash flow kind of affects everything. And I've been learning about it as much as possible so that I can deliver it as a service to my clients. But it really comes from a place of understanding how unsettling and disheartening and confusing and life-shaking it can be to have cash flow not going well.
It would be something that I'm sure many listeners are embracing at this moment because many go through it. And are still going. Unfortunately, more are still in it than are on the other side, like yourself. But those that are on the other side have gone through probably a very similar journey. What I'm going to do is I'm actually, for the very first time, going to split this episode into 2 because it's about an hour long and it'll fit nicely.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you again. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.